Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
And Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff, Tam McManus and Alison McConnell, joining us on the show to look back over the weekend's Premiership fixtures and all the news emerging today. We'll hear from Stephen Gerrard, John Kennedy. We'll also, hopefully a little later on, hear from Stephen Reid and Declan Gallagher from the Scotland camp. They've been speaking today. We'll hear from Jim Goodwin, a rather irate Jim Goodwin, and Brian Rice on Hamilton picking up a point. Lots of stories at the top and the bottom. We will discuss some of the statements coming out as well regarding not only the Rangers-Slavia Prague game, but of course some of the things that happened in the Old Firm game at the weekend. You can give us your view on it. All you have to do is hit the follow on our Facebook page, share it with your friends, and if you're on YouTube, don't forget you can subscribe by hitting the red button whenever takes your fancy. We'd love you to join the football family. So there it is in a nutshell. Just before we get on to all the big talk of the big game yesterday at Celtic Park, just a mention on rather sad news that came about over the weekend, which was the announcement that Peter Lorimer had sadly passed away at the age of 74. I don't know about you, Roughie, but as a boy, I used to practice trying to hit the ball at 100 miles an hour because that was one of the great things that Lorimer was famed for. He was a fantastic player in a brilliant Leeds United side.
Yeah, I think if you ask any manager that he played under, they've high regard of him. And any time you speak to Big Gordon or Joe Jordan, they always spoke about him, that a life and soul in the dressing room as well. But you're right, a fantastic shot. I think they were recording, who had the hardest and fastest shot. And I think he won it hands down. But again, it just came in, when I came into Scotland squad, he was sort of on his way out after the 74 World Cup. But no, even his teammates thought very highly of him.
Yeah, he played for Leeds for a long time in two spells. You look at the career highlights, you can see the things that he's won and he took part in from 1962, under 16 years of age, making his debut for Leeds United, all the way through to 1979, 238 goals in 705 games. No mean feat there. And of course, that Don Revie side was absolutely superb. First Division League Cup, the Fairs Cup as well, and the FA Cup, and of course, Scotland. I remember him hammering in the goal for Scotland in that match against Zaire. So there you have it. Our condolences to his family and his friends. Peter Lorimer, another legend taken from us this weekend. I can tell you, news just breaking. We might as well cut to it right away. Post-split fixtures are just out. Weekend of April 10th and 11th, the midweek of April 20th, 21st, the weekend of May 1st and 2nd, the midweek of May 11th and 12th, and the weekend of May 15th and 16th is when these matches are going to be played. The Premiership bottom six will conclude on Sunday, May 16th, with the two legs of the Premiership playoff final to follow on Wednesday, May 19th and Sunday, May 23rd. So as far as the big games are concerned, Celtic and Rangers fans have been looking. Celtic against Livingston, April 10th. April 21st, Aberdeen Celtic. May the 2nd at Ibrox, Rangers versus Celtic. So that's what everybody was wondering. When will that final Old Firm game be? And it's going to be May 2nd, Rangers against Celtic. So there you have it. As far as the third instalment of Celtic and Rangers, it happened yesterday. It ended 1-1. Few controversial talking points. But first and foremost, I think the one thing that really heartened a lot of people was a lovely gesture by Scott Brown going over to Glenn Kamara just to show his support and offer his backing to him, because quite simply professional footballers know the stresses and strains they can be under, and certainly Glenn Kamara would have been feeling it. And it was just a brilliant gesture that I think gave everybody a shot in the arm.
Yeah, it was, Peter. I think that it was much needed. We all know the rivalry between Celtic and Rangers over the years, and but racism goes above that. It's everybody should be against that, no matter what team you support, no matter what religion you are. There's no place for it in society or in football. So I thought it was a great gesture from Scott Brown. For me, Scott Brown's a class act. I think he he's a top man. He helps a lot of people, and he doesn't get any praise nor want any for it. You know, charities, you know that yourself. He helps a lot of people, so I'm not surprised that he went and done that. He'd probably done it off his own back because that's the type of guy he is. And he went over there, and I think it brought everyone together. Celtic fans, Rangers fans, everybody was delighted with that gesture. I think it showed the whole world that we're against racism. So in Scottish football, it was a great gesture. So fair play to Scott Brown for doing that. I thought it was a great start to the Old Firm game.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely touch, Alice. I think it needed that because, you know, the majority of people know exactly that life is more important, your everyday life, your family, your kids, everything. And at times, I think footballers are put into this position that's beyond, normal human beings. I think there's this rivalry, hatred, and all of that. And that's just not the case. And that was a really strong image, I thought, at the weekend.
I thought it set the tone for what became a very civilised derby. I think it was fairly tame when you compare it to some of the meetings that have gone before, and I think it was just a gesture that unified both teams, and then led into the kick-off where both teams stood in defiance against stood rather than taking the knee, and you can see why. Like there's a growing feeling that taking the knee's become little more than tokenism. If you're not going to have UEFA backing it up by banning players and banning clubs when they've been found guilty for racism, then it almost seems very pointless to carry through with it. And I think what you want to see now is the authorities taking the relevant action rather than just paying it lip service. It's pointless everyone standing and showing red cards and backing campaigns to give racism the red card if there's no real action behind it. It's now's the time when you have to see UEFA come down firmly. But I think I wouldn't be holding my breath. Sadly, I wouldn't be holding my breath because we've seen so many instances in the recent past where it's come to the fore again, and clubs are given little more and are given little more than a slap on the wrists, really. But you would like to think that any investigation into what happened last Thursday would be dealt with soundly.
Yeah, absolutely. We wait to see exactly how strong the stance is going to be. As far as the actual show of unity, I think the Rangers manager, Steven Gerrard, certainly appreciated that everyone's standing together.
You know, everyone's standing up and showing the support and getting behind it. So yeah, fair play to both clubs. Really, really pleasing to see. I thought he was faultless, really. I thought he was really good. He gave exactly what we wanted him to give. He battled well, he passed it well. He got on with the game, and he helped us get a positive result. So really pleased for Glenn, and he'll go away now with his national team and focus on that.
Yeah, it was a big game for Glenn Kamara. A lot of eyes on him, and I think the manager was happy with his contribution when you consider the week that he's had. Of course, John Kennedy echoed the sentiments of Steven Gerrard and mentioned the fact that football, it's just a game. It's a rivalry, yes. And at the end of the day, this was a show of unity.
Yeah, it's important. And this is not about rivalries, derbies, opposition, teams and anything else. This is about, as you said, unity. It's about coming together and trying to make a difference now. Because it's going on too long. It seems to be happening more and more, even though there's more probably education or maybe more news about it. It seems to be spoken about more and more. I don't know if it's because of that or there seems to be more of it happening. It's not acceptable. Absolutely not acceptable. And what happens is you give someone or whoever it might be punishment for it, and severe punishment of that, it'll quickly eradicate it.
Yeah, I agree with John Kennedy on that, Roughie. I hate to put a dampener on it, Roughie, but I don't know how you are going to eradicate it completely. I think, there is a real general consensus about education. There are people who are obviously arguing over what form that should take and how people should conduct their lives, and how we educate people to accept each other's differences. And there has to be a message, Roughie, of you cannot abuse someone just because of the colour of their skin, their religious beliefs. There are so many things that are, people are prejudiced about, but abusing them just can't be tolerated. But unfortunately, Roughie, I think we've got a platform now in social media which allows, really unsavoury posts. I mean, Alfredo Morelos, there's an investigation from the police about racial abuse towards the Rangers striker after the game at the weekend.
Yeah, we've been discussing it for the last fortnight now, that we all know that something seriously has to be done to stamp it out. These people need to be punished, and punished severely. And, you know, we need to move on with the younger generation that's coming through. And the things that happened yesterday, I'm sure there have been a lot of young kids watching the game and seeing everybody was getting together. And I think that's a good thing for the future, because it's the kids of the future, you know, that we hope it'll get less and less, and they grow up, you know, knowing that it's not right to do this. And I'm sure a lot of things that happened yesterday will be good for the game.
Yeah, and of course, the other thing that we must point out is there's an ongoing investigation into what happened in midweek between Rangers and Slavia Prague. Slavia Prague certainly has their PR machine has kicked in big time on this, but I think the truth will come out, and then we can make an overall judgment of what happened in the tunnel. UEFA are investigating an alleged racist incident, and that's in the tunnel as well. They reported the incident to Police Scotland, Slavia Prague, and they say they'll respect the outcome and take action if the outcome warrants any. Well, on that point, Greater Glasgow Police have just released a tweet which says, "We can confirm we have received a report of an assault following the match between Rangers and Slavia Prague at Ibrox on Thursday, 18th of March. Officers are liaising with both teams and an investigation is underway." So that gives you a sense of where we are with that. And by the way, we haven't even talked about any ball being kicked in earnest, such as the nature of these constant unsavoury incidents, abuse, racist abuse, bigotry, people not following rules and regulations and social distancing. That's all we've been talking about in the last 7 days. That gives you an indication of where we are in society at the moment. Incidentally, we're trying to bring you as much news up to date as possible as it comes out. Rangers fixtures just coming out. Rangers against Hibs will be April 11th. Then 21st it'll be St Johnstone against Rangers, 7:45 kickoff. As we mentioned, Rangers versus Celtic, the final Old Firm encounter of the season at Ibrox on May 2nd. And then it's Rangers Aberdeen. And that one, I think, is going to be Trophy Day, when Rangers will get the Premiership trophy. So that really is going to be a special night at Ibrox for fans to look on. They certainly won't be allowed inside the stadium. But there you have it, the latest from the fixtures coming out. Now, I can tell you that there's an SFA statement. This is the last part before we talk about the game. There's an FA statement out on the Equality Board appointments. The Scottish FA's Equality and Diversity Advisory Board has redoubled its efforts to eradicate racism as the game unites behind Rangers' Glenn Kamara after he spoke of receiving vile racist abuse. The EDAB today announced a series of new board appointments designed to unite the game behind a common agenda to eradicate racism and all forms of discrimination whilst promoting equality for all within the game. The incident involving Kamara will be the top item on the agenda. EDAB has welcomed Livingston midfielder Marvin Bartley and ex-Scotland midfielder Leanne Ross on board as the SFA Equality Advisors. The two players will have regular dialogue with the SFA's EDAB in order to give an existing player's perspective on forthcoming decisions, as well as providing an insightful view on certain issues which exist within the game. So, a couple of positive appointments there, and let's hope there are positive moves made over the next couple of months, and let's hope we're speaking less and less about the madness. What about the game? 1-1. Fair result, Tam?
No, I thought Celtic were the better team, Peter, to be honest. I thought Celtic just edged it. I thought they could have won the game if their finishing was a little bit better. But Al McGregor had a couple of outstanding saves that he usually does in the Old Firm games. But no, I thought on the day that Celtic were the better side and probably just edged it. But, you know, the Rangers are very difficult to beat this season. We've seen that. You know, games that I didn't think they played particularly well yesterday, and they still get a draw. They remain unbeaten, and I think that was probably the main objective, to go to Parkhead yesterday for Steven Gerrard, the Rangers fans, Rangers players, go there and don't get beat. And that's one ticked off, one of your hardest games ticked off towards the end of the season. So I think Rangers will be happy with the result. Celtic I thought played pretty well in patches. But a draw. I thought Celtic were the better side, and just a draw was, that was the end result. But I thought Celtic just edged it.
Yeah, and you called it right on Friday. You said Morelos would end his goal-scoring drought in this fixture.
Peter, I thought it was a certainty. Listen, I just think the pressure was off him, wasn't it? I think that I think over the last couple of seasons, he has been the man that the Rangers supporters, the Rangers staff and players have been looking for to be the man in the Old Firm games, and he's not produced. But I just think the league's won. He's had a great season. I just thought it was written in the stars for him to get his goal. And listen, it was fantastic movement from him. Not great defending from John Joe Kenny, I must admit, at the back post. He's sleeping. But Morelos gambles like all good strikers do. He anticipates where the ball's going to drop, and he gets himself a little tap-in header from a couple of yards out. So he'll be delighted to get that off his back and can say he scored in an Old Firm game. But no, I thought he had a decent game as well yesterday for Rangers.
Yeah, penalty or no penalty, Roughie? Edouard.
I thought the referee done particularly well, to call it as quick as he did. When I initially saw it, I just shouted penalty. It just looked a penalty. It looked a rash challenge from the Rangers defender. I just think Edouard hasn't been practising as much as some of the other guys who leave their foot in and fall down. So you'll need to practice a wee bit more, because it didn't look good the more times you've seen it. But I've seen it given lots of times, and I think the Rangers defender knew he'd went in rather clumsily, but it wasn't a penalty. And Willie Collum deserves a lot of credit, because if he'd have really got that Stonewall wrong, he would have got a lot of criticism. But as it is, you just have to accept it and move on.
Yeah, you painted a lovely picture there for 45 seconds, and I still don't know. I absolutely still don't know whether you thought it was a penalty or not.
First time I saw it, I went penalty, and that's what I probably would have given. On the first time, the first instance, the way the challenge went in, the way Edouard went down, if I'd have been the referee, I'd have given a penalty.
Did you think it was a penalty?
No.
Wow. I must apologise to everybody. I thought there was a delay.
2 or 3 times.
I thought there was a delay in the transmission there. There was such a long, ponderous wait. So you don't think it was a penalty?
No, what I'm saying is, once I get the opportunity to see it 2 or 3 times, which Willie Collum hadn't the opportunity, I'd have given a penalty in the first time I saw it.
Okay, John Kennedy thinks it was a stonewaller.
In terms of that contact, when you get any sort of contact in the box and the player comes flying out at that speed, if you play it full time, you can slow it down and say, not sure how much is there. Play it full speed, the player comes recklessly in, knocks you off balance, just touches you enough, you go over. That's what's happened there. It knocked him off. If it doesn't go over, he's on the ball, he scores the goal. So there's no need for him to go down. He's a goal scorer, he wants as many goals as possible, and he's not that type of player. So we feel aggrieved that we didn't get the penalty kick, but we've got to accept that and then look at the bigger picture of the performance.
Okay, lots of goal scorers I know dive for penalties. I thought it was a dive, Ali. What did you think?
I didn't think it was a dive. And I also think had he stayed on his feet, I think the penalty would probably have been given, because I think the momentum then would have taken him off and it would have been far clearer for a foul. But I didn't think it was a dive. I did think there was some contact in it. And I think it could have been given. I don't think it was a stonewaller. I don't think any of us would have looked at it and been able to make a decision once you've seen it a few times and from a few different angles. But when you see some of the penalties that have been given this season, particularly down south, I don't know if you saw the incident with Harry Kane yesterday too, but you look at a few of them and you think, I don't know, I think there was enough just to interfere with him getting his shot away. So there's an argument there to say that it could have been.
Okay, Ali thinks penalty. Roughie thinks no, eventually. Tam?
Yeah, I think it was a penalty. I'll tell you why. I will tell you why I think it was a penalty. I think anywhere else in the park, it's a foul. I think if somebody lunges in the middle of the park like that and you out the road him, the referee would blow up for a foul for dangerous play. So I feel as if it was a foul. I feel he's impeded. He's got to get out the road of that tackle. And a more clever player, a more savvy player, more experienced player would have just stood there and got the contact, as Alison said there, and it would have been a nailed-on penalty. Because I think that Barisic comes flying out, he's nowhere near the ball, and I just think that for me, it's a penalty kick. It's a foul anywhere else in the park, so I would have gave a penalty for that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, the great joy is we're all disagreeing. Some of us agreeing, some of us disagreeing, some of us taking a while to get there. Ali, have you got a further point on this one?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's an interesting one. I don't think Rangers have had a penalty given against them for something like 15 months on league duty. I think it's an astonishing record. It's something like 40. I think it's 43 league games or something without conceding a penalty.
No, forgive me for biting here, but are you suggesting some sort of conspiracy theory?
Not at all. No, not at all. I'm just saying it's quite an astonishing stat. They've gone well over a calendar year. I think it's 15 months. I think Ryan Christie actually might have been the last one who missed a penalty against. I think that might have been the last time they conceded a penalty.
Okay, I'm sure you've opened up a hornet's nest with that line, by the way. But nevertheless, it is a statement of fact. I didn't think it was a penalty. And Tam thought it was a penalty. Roughie eventually no, and Alison, were you? It could have been a penalty, but no, or it could have been a penalty. Yes, was a penalty.
I think if he stayed on his feet, it would have been given.
Yeah, the other point I was going to raise to you guys in the game, Morelos did get his goal, and I think he was absolutely delighted. Eventually, he was able to break his. But the other key point here, and I'm absolutely gobsmacked by it, Roughie. What on earth was John Joe Kenny passing a ball back to his goalkeeper from 45 yards away at the halfway line, which eventually put Celtic in trouble, a team that can't defend set pieces? I mean, I was absolutely flabbergasted by his decision.
Yeah, and that's what happens once a goal like that goes in. You start backtracking to see where it could have been prevented, and that's exactly where it could have been prevented. I don't know what. It's just a rush of blood. You'd have to, ask the boy himself, but I'm sure he will be regretting that he did it because it's obviously cost his team the win, and and obviously the corner coming over and I'm losing the marker. So the whole goal was his fault and nobody else's. So he'll just have to live with it and get on with it.
I'm sure he's over it by now, Roughie. Other things that happened in the game, of course, Rangers still 20 points clear. They come away from Celtic Park with a 1-1 draw, unscathed. Their unbeaten record intact as we speak. And of course, off the back of that, Steve Davis signed a 1-year extension, which, again, I don't think any Rangers fan would begrudge him that, because he's been superb, Ali. What a real bonus having Steve Davis there for another year.
I think he's just used all his experience this season. I think he's been quietly effective. He just goes about his business. I think he's been a huge player for Rangers, I think, this season. And I think getting him signed up for another year will be a bonus going forward, because you're always looking for some kind of continuity as you look to protect the Championship. I just wonder if Alan McGregor might be the next one to come from Rangers, because I think he's also out of contract, and I think you could make an argument for him being Player of the Year this season. I think he's been exemplary throughout. I thought he performed pretty well yesterday. I'm not sure if there was anything that we wouldn't have anticipated him saving. I don't know if there were any chances that you would say Celtic created that he really defied them by keeping them out. But I think he's had a wonderful season, and I just wonder if he might be the next one on the list to try and tie down for another year.
Yeah, as far as the stats are concerned for Rangers, I mean, it's impressive when you consider now they're through the entire season. 33 games unbeaten, 26 wins, 5 draws, 78 goals scored, 24 clean sheets, 16 different goal scorers, 100% record at Ibrox as well. They won't beat Brendan Rodgers' Invincibles points, but, they're certainly in line and on track to go through the entire league season undefeated. This is what Steven Gerrard makes of this whole invincible tag.
Listen, we appreciate the question. We know people are talking about it on the outside. I'll give you a little glimpse of what's on the inside. It's always about the next game. It's a sideshow, really. We'll try and achieve it. We'll do everything we can because we want to try and win every game. It'll be tough. There's a lot of challenges out there. The priority now is the Scottish Cup, because we want to try and do a double. We want to try and win another trophy.
Roughie, Can they go the entire season undefeated?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the fixture list you've given out there. I think Celtic at home, Aberdeen at home. I think Hibs would be the tough one if you look at it. You know, obviously the home and away games. I think everybody will be trying to stop them. I think he knows that. I mean, nobody wants teams coming to your ground and celebrating and making records and things that go along with that. So, no, that's the motivation for everybody else. But the motivation for them is going through the whole season and not losing. It's a tremendous achievement. We saw what it was like when Celtic did it. You know, the supporters loved it. They bought into it, and it's something you can think back on in years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll try and get Tam back as soon as possible. Don't worry, he hasn't gone into a darkened room. He's not in the huff. He will come back eventually once he sorts things out. I think his whole family are on the iPads and everything and draining his Wi-Fi at the moment. But we'll get his thoughts shortly. As far as the Old Firm game is concerned, thank you to so many here who've posted messages about the game, their thoughts on whether it was a penalty, on Morelos scoring the goal, and over and above that, all sorts of other issues with regards to Celtic. El Yunusi scoring a good goal for Celtic, created by Odsonne Edouard as well, but it ended 1-1. Incidentally, a little later on, we'll give you the odds on the latest odds on who's going to become the next Celtic manager. Interesting about the first 7. I've got not a catch chance in hell of getting it, but the bookies will gleefully take your money. Next one is Hamilton against St Mirren. Whoa, Roughie. This one ended up a draw and killed off St Mirren's chance of the top 6.
Yeah, I wouldn't have liked to have been in that St Mirren dressing room at the end of the game. Being an ex-player myself, you know, I know how they must have felt. And it'd be probably one of the quietest dressing rooms a lot of them have ever been in, because there's nothing you can do about it. You can't reverse it. And it's been a long season, and they looked as if they were good enough. They had chances during the game to put the game away, but they never took them. But to lose a goal like that right at the end, and in light of what happened up at St Johnstone, you can see the interview with the manager. He's absolutely gutted as well, because they really did think they were going to be in the top 6, and being in the top 6 is a lot of money to clubs. You know, once it sort of works itself out, you're talking about every position you go up, you're talking about 100,000, maybe 150, 200. So massive money that the club has lost. But I think from the footballing point of view, it's the players would be really gutted.
Yeah, Jim Goodwin, the St Mirren boss, reckons the referee cost them that top 6 place.
You know, I think the referee's cost us today. I think he's cost us a top 6 place. And like I say, far too many times we find ourselves sitting here talking about the standard of refereeing. And it's disappointing, because I don't like talking about the officials. You know, people will be sitting listening to this and thinking, well, sour grapes on my part. You know, it's not. At the end of the day, in my opinion, having played centre-half myself, that is not a free kick. And, you know, that's why we're sitting where we are right now.
It's a strange one, Ali, because I looked at Joe Shaughnessy's challenge, and many a free kick has been given for leaning over a player who's in the challenge. I'm not sure Don Robertson cost St Mirren. They still had to defend the free kick, and their defending was woeful.
Listen, I think over the last 6-7 weeks, I think they've just maybe ran out of steam a bit, St Mirren. I felt for the players. I felt for Jim Goodwin. I've got a lot of time for him. I think he speaks a lot of sense. I think he's called already this season for full-time referees, and that was prior to any kind of controversy, and he's spoken about trying to use VAR, or a Scottish element of VAR, given that all clubs already use video technology, and you can see why. But I think probably in the cold light of day, when it calms down a bit, I think over the last 8 games, I think maybe St Mirren have won 1 in 8 or something over the last wee while, and I think probably that's what's cost them, just as they've come into touching distance of it. But it was harsh. It was a cruel way for them to lose it. I think to lose it on goal difference for one, you don't even lose it on points. You lose it by virtue of 2 goals, and those goals come in the closing minutes when you're just within touching distance of it. I was up at Perth, and when when they scored, when Glenn Middleton scored with 4 minutes to go, you just wondered. You're looking at the Hamilton score and you're thinking 1-0. It's always precarious when you're trying to defend something, and you just wondered if word had got out about the fact that St Johnstone scored, how it gives it just might have given St Mirren some jitters too, just going into those last few minutes. But I felt for them because it's a cruel way to lose it, and it could be the difference between a player or two this summer. That's what it really comes down to. But I think if there was an honest assessment, it's probably more to do with the form of recent weeks than it is about the referees calling the last minute.
Yeah, it's a good point you make, Ali, because 1 win in 8, Roughie, and most of the other games killed them. I mean, it's 5 draws out of that 8, 2 defeats, only 1 win against Ross County. That's not good enough. They had other chances elsewhere to seal it, as Ali points out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if he sits in his office, he'll look back to the beginning of the season and he'll identify games where if that had went our way or that had went our way, we wouldn't be talking about a goal difference to settle this out. So it's just because it all happened in the last minute of the game, and that's what sticks in your head. But you're right, he in the light of day, he'll know that there are some of these games that you talked about that were draws they should have won, and if they'd just won one of them, that'd have been enough.
Yeah, and as we know from one season after another, no surprise that Hamilton boss Brian Rice, with 5 games left, is ready to battle for the Great Escape again.
Listen, I'm delighted with the point. It keeps us all in there, all fighting. 5 games to go. Play each other. So the good thing for me is I know the boys are going to keep going, and I know they're going to fight right to the very end. Whatever happens at the end, we don't know yet, but I know we'll be fighting right to the end. And I think you see that. I think everybody knows that.
Yeah, I think Roughie and I picked Ross County.
When you gave out the fixtures there, did you have the bottom half fixtures, and which team down there has got the advantage of the 3 games at home, which is going to be absolutely massive?
No, the fixtures have just come out, and I am almost certain, Roughie, our researchers in the background will try and get us those bottom 5 sets of fixtures from you, because I know you like everything on demand as soon as it comes into your head. But with that in mind, Roughie, I think I picked Ross County. You picked Ross County. Ali,
Ross County. I'm sure I said Ross County too.
Well, how can we pick? I mean, I don't know how to pick it all now, because St Johnstone defeated Ross County and Accies and Killie. Killie with that big win at the weekend over Motherwell. Suddenly, are they getting to a bit of form? Who knows? Oh, there's Tam. He's come back. He's lots of people.
Sorry, I'm having problems with my Wi-Fi, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Lots of people suggesting you were out kicking the dog, but I said to them, "There's no way." Tam's fine with the Hibs result. We'll get to it in a minute. Yeah, I mean, Ali, it's so tough down there now to pick.
It is. I think there's 2 points between the bottom 3, between Kilmarnock, Ross County and Hamilton. But I have to say, I saw Ross County on Saturday. I was at Perth, and I thought Ross County were awful. I thought they looked like a team destined to go down. They had nothing about them at all. They were so insipid. I think they had one wild shot or you couldn't even call it a shot on target. It was just like high and wide, and I think it was the only time in the entirety of the 90 minutes that they actually get out their own half. And you look at the scoreline and you think a late goal and 1-0, it was fairly tight. It wasn't at all. If St Johnstone had taken some of the chances that they created, they would have been out of sight by half time. And there was nothing about Ross County at all, and on that evidence alone, I think you would fear for them.
Yeah, and Tam, I can't quite work out what Motherwell are all about. You wouldn't take them in a bet right now. I mean, the first goal from Kyle Lafferty was farcical. I mean, I thought the goalkeeper could have thrown his bonnet on it and still saved it. It was incredible, wasn't it?
I think the goalkeeper had the big foam gloves on you go to the wrestling with. Honestly, it was human parliament. And I'd actually mentioned Liam Kelly last week for Hibs. I maybe scrubbed him off the list after that one. It's a Kyle Lafferty left foot, scarf. And I think Roughie could still save it. No, his hands are all bent, his fingers. So, it was a terrible goal to lose. And even the other 3 goals were awful goals to lose. I think the big centre-half with ice skates on one of them, on that AstroTurf. So, dreadful performance from Motherwell. And I seen them 3 or 4 weeks ago at Easter Road, and they battered Hibs. So, they're very, very up and down at the minute, Motherwell, but I think they've just got enough points on the board to keep themselves safe. They maybe need to get one more win in the split, but I think there's a lot of work to be done next season for Graham Alexander.
Yeah, absolutely. And good to know that you've let everybody know that Roughie's hands are all battered and meshed and in a bad way.
Roughie,
still good enough to hold it. Still good
I was going to put two up there,
racket.
but I better know.
I mean, there's a guy who never wore goalkeeping gloves. Incredible. It's unbelievable. He's still, let me tell you, Tam, he can still hold a tennis racket. He's still good with a tennis racket. Incidentally, the bottom
He's
six.
still good at tennis, unbelievable.
Ah, it's amazing. The bottom six, Hamilton versus Dundee United, 3:00 on April 10th. Then it's Killie, Ross County and Motherwell St Mirren. On the Wednesday, it's Hamilton against Motherwell, Killie, Dundee and Ross County against St Mirren, which is going to be a cracker. And then May the 1st, it's Dundee United against Ross County, Motherwell, Kilmarnock and St Mirren against Hamilton. And on May 12th, it's Dundee United versus Motherwell at 7:45. Ross County against Hamilton and Killie against St Mirren. And the last lot, and this is where I think it's going to be, this is where it really is squeaky bum time. Saturday, May 16th, Hamilton versus Kilmarnock, St Mirren versus Dundee United, and Motherwell against Ross County. So it could be, Ali, Hamilton against Kilmarnock could have huge implications where they're listening and wondering what's happening at Motherwell Ross County.
Wow, I think there's been so little between them at the bottom for the entirety of the season that I wouldn't anticipate it being any different until you get to that point, unless Kilmarnock can maybe use Saturday's result as a catalyst to go on a run and maybe just extricate themselves from where they are just now. But I would fully expect that Ross County and Hamilton will be vying for the bottom spot. I think both of them will really be in amongst it. That final game could be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Roughie, what do you make of the home and away situation here? Where do you think the bonus lies?
Yeah, well, I would rather have 3 home games than 3 away games. And I'm sure there'll be managers sitting there wondering how it's panned out and how they came to that conclusion, because sometimes in a year somebody will say, oh, we've played more away games than them. And it is, quite a big fixture, if you're getting an advantage of a home game, particularly against somebody that you're up against. So, but at the end of the day, I think if you get Kilmarnock, Ross County and Hamilton, 5 games, I think the managers will be looking at some kind of, when I say a run, I mean 2 wins. 2 wins would be unbelievable for any of them to take them out of the mess they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Tam, just as a side issue here, Livingston obviously not thinking about the drop. They were a hard watch at the weekend, but Hibs, I think, have done enough, even with 5 games remaining. I can't see Aberdeen catch them in third, can you?
I hope you're right, Peter. Listen, I think that Hibs are what, 7 points ahead now, so I think they've got a nice cushion. I think they're 11 goals better off as well. So I think that it's all but signed and sealed for Hibs. It was a poor first half display, but it's a difficult place to go. Livingston, the pitch is terrible. The ball was up in the air the whole half. But Livingston, I thought Craig Sibbald was excellent. I thought he could have had 2 or 3 goals. Like he was the best player in the park the first half, and Hibs couldn't get to grips with him. But second half, I thought Hibs were excellent. I thought they played really well. They should have won it in the second half. They had a couple of chances to win the game, but I think a point's a good point when you look at the Aberdeen result. And Aberdeen at the minute, I mean, 1 goal in 10 games, 9 games. It's just horrendous. I've never seen a team like that. I mean, you could literally put a wheelie bin beside a goal in 10 games and something would hit off it and go in. I have no idea how they can't score a goal, the whole team. So, listen, I think the Hibs have got it signed and sealed. A couple of wins, 3 or 4 points, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Just in case you're wondering, by the way, it does feel like, Roughie, we're harping back to the Eurovision Song Contest from 1974 when we ask Denmark if they can give their votes, and then eventually after a 6-second delay, Tam kicks in with the answer. It just shows you how bad his Wi-Fi is, doesn't it? Hello, 2 points, the Netherlands.
That's terrible. Apologies.
I was just wondering whether he'd moved to America for the weekend.
But on a serious note, what a great chance for Dave Cormack, Alison, to put out a promotional video for next season. Come and see Aberdeen score their first goal in the new season because they couldn't hit a barn door from 2 yards. It's dire.
It's extraordinary how bad the run has been since the turn of the year. It's just they can't buy a goal at the minute. And you thought when they got one a few weeks ago, you kind of thought this will be it. Like you've got the monkey off your back and it takes the pressure off once you've got one in. But it just doesn't seem to be coming at all. I think it's a huge problem for them going into next season. I think it's a massive position for them to find, and it's not the easiest position in the world to go and find goal scorers. They're not an easy supply where you go out and you find someone that's going to net you between 10, 15 goals a season. They come at a premium, and it'll be tough for them. Whoever comes in, I think that'll be a priority position this summer. I just wonder if Bruce Anderson's done enough in his loan spell at Hamilton to go back in and stake a claim for certain.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who the manager is. It's amazing, by the way, how many managers, Roughie, get the sack and then they're suddenly in line for a Scottish job. I mean, I'm gobsmacked. You're a failure at the club you're at, but suddenly you're in the running for a job elsewhere. I mean, I'm reading today Alec Neil being tipped for the Aberdeen job. I looked, Roughie, this is incredible. The Celtic manager bookies odds on this. Chris Wilder 7-5. At the moment, John Kennedy 2-1, Roy Keane 9-2. Would you believe it? Jindrik Trusovski, the Slavia Prague manager, is 11-2. Enzo Maresca at 15-2. Carlos Queiroz, I don't know where he came from, at 9-1. Eddie Howe at 12-1. You've got Jesse Marsh 14-1. And then Alec Neil's been quoted at Celtic along with Frank Lampard. Martin O'Neill has completely distanced himself from coming back to Celtic. And Steve Clark now, Roughie, is out at 20-1. I mean, I've got the first six there. I haven't got a catch chance in hell of getting the job.
No, but I thought at the weekend, Martin O'Neill talking up Roy Keane, saying how well he'd done under him. You know, might have come some kind of say with the owner, because you know that the owner likes a wee bit of input from people that he trusts himself. So that would just be a wee added thing, the way that Sir Alec Ferguson mentions somebody to some owner, and then all of a sudden they get the job. So no, it just shows you, you know, that I don't think there's a certainty in any of these ones that you've read out. So people are lucky that the bookies are shut just now, because they can keep their money in their pocket, because I don't think any of them, you know, are certainties to get it.
Yeah, remember you can still do it online, Roughie. The Scottish Premiership table, here's a wee look at the table and how your team's faring in it. Hamilton at the bottom there with Kilmarnock, it's tight, and Ross County, and then Motherwell, I think, with enough of a cushion, I think we all agree, with Dundee United and St Mirren. And up at the top there, Rangers, the champions. Can they go through the entire season undefeated? Only time will tell. We now know the fixtures they have for the final 5 games, and don't forget you can catch up on all the fixtures revealed on our website, plzsoccer.com. And of course we can get you to play a game where you can try and spot when Tam is going to sit down when the music stops on the programme as well. So there's lots of things you can play here on this programme. A couple of weeks ago, Gabriel Antoniazzi caught us all in the hop when he actually picked the entire Rangers side as team of the week. Nobody really argued. I think he got it spot on. I wonder who's made it this week.
Alan McGregor made 7 saves on Sunday, proving his worth yet again. Richard Tate was the Buddies' best player on a frustrating afternoon. Raffaele De Vita made a goal-line clearance late on for Livy. Scott McMahon delivered the perfect cross for the Accies equaliser. Craig Sibbald scored once and could have had another. Liam Craig pulled the strings for St Johnstone and has impressed all season. Adrian Spola got the United goal but also helped his team defensively. Mitch Pinnock grabbed a goal and an assist in a dominant display. Kyle Lafferty could be the man to save Killy's season with another goal here. Alfredo Morelos finally broke his old firm duck, scoring his 55th league goal. Mohamed El Yunusi linked up impressively with Odsonne Edouard and scored his 14th of the campaign.
No Nisbet in that team. Tam will be raging. as far as the team's concerned, you had to get Morelos in there. Ali, it was a great day for him scoring that goal in the Old Firm game.
Yeah, I think it was inevitable he was going to take his place this week, wasn't it? I think it was as inevitable as the fact that he had to score in one of them, and I think Tam was right. I think when the pressure's off and no one's relying on you to do it just kind of opened the gate for him to go and get it. I'm sure he'll be relieved more than anything just to get it. I'd have to say though, I was up at Perth. I thought David Witherspoon was excellent. I thought he had a fantastic game. I think I might have had him in ahead of William Craig.
Yeah, David Witherspoon's a really good player. Really like him as a player. He's got a good bit of skill on him as well. So that's the team of the week. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Ali. What about the predictor scores, Roughie? It's getting tight. I think this is going to be the closest we've ever had in a head-to-head, Roughie. Here's how it all looks. Here's how it all pans out. 278, 287, 273. You're 5 points behind me. And obviously there's 9 points between me and Tam. I think, it's still in there, Roughie, that you could actually win it with a couple of really good results.
Yeah, I think we all had a poor weekend there, but we all managed to get a correct score. I got 1 each, Rangers Celtic, you got 1-0. I think somebody needs to have that big 17-pointer that happens very, very rarely throughout the season. So let's hope it's me.
Yeah, absolutely. Ali, if you were picking a 1-2, I don't want to put you under pressure, Ali, but if you were picking a 1-2-3 and how you think it's going to pan out for the big meal, the big night out, what would be your order?
I think you're going to stage a late comeback, Peter. I'm going to have you taking first spot, Tam for second and Roughie for third.
Well,
wait till you get that down my pad.
He never forgets. Absolutely. Just out of curiosity, Roughie, I'm looking at the results from elsewhere at the weekend. I mean, Arbroath Hearts was another snore draw. Raith, Dunfermline, Dundee, all on 30 points, Roughie, in the Championship. Woof. That's going to be really, really tight in the playoff places. Although Hearts will win the league.
Oh, Hearts will win the league, but I think there's still a lot of games out there that it's the same as the sort of a Premiership. You got a runaway winner, and all the other teams have no consistency whatsoever. And that's the same as the Championship. I mean, the bottom teams are beating the teams that are going for the playoffs. So again, with that one, it'll all be who can put a run in. Who can get 2 or 3 wins and take themselves away. But I still think Dundee and Dunfermline will make that just behind the. I think they'll go 3 and 4. I don't know who'll be second.
Yeah, will you guys make the playoffs, Roughie? I'm looking at your guys. Falkirk look as if they're going to win that League One, but you boys are just outside the playoff position.
Yeah, we've got a game in hand. If we win the game in hand, it would take us up to, I think, third. But there's going to be a lot of tight games there. You just have to look at the scores from everywhere else. We're the same. It's a really tight league. Nobody's giving anything away. So, yeah, again, you need to win a couple of games and get a bit of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of people messaging in, and thank you very much. Neil Gray says, Peter is the meal for the whole of the PLZ team. No, I don't think it is, Neil, because I'd have to resuscitate Roughie, because some of our team can absolutely drink a bucket full, never mind eat a bucket full, and Roughie would be raging. Andy Phillips has mentioned, do you think Rangers and Celtic will spend big next season, as there will be a Champions League group stage place up for grabs at the end of it? Is a very interesting one, Ali, because as well as lots of people suggesting a clear out at Celtic, I think Steven Gerrard will look again to add that 1, 2 and 3 bits of quality, a standard higher than what he has at the moment, and then offload some of the people who are on the bench who are never going to feature next season again.
I think it's different for both teams, isn't it? I think Steven Gerrard will want to keep the core of that side and maybe add 1 or 2 quality players to enhance the overall strength of the side. Celtic, I think, is different entirely because you could lose a number of key players and key positions. I think you could go through the team individually and have a chat about who'll be there and who won't be there, but there are a number of lone players that are there just now that definitely won't be there, I don't think, next season. I think Christopher Ayer, I think Odsonne Edward will be among those who will go. So I think whoever comes in will have a fairly substantial job to do in terms of addressing the frailties that have been evident throughout the course of this season, and also just filling in the gaps of the positions where you'll need to bring people in because others will leave. So I think it's a far bigger job at Celtic this season than it is at Rangers. I think Steven Gerrard will be happy with the squad he's got. I don't think there'll be any major surgery, but it's an entirely different proposition at Celtic.
Yeah, and as you're aware, Roughie, you can't move them all out. I mean, I mentioned that Celtic, I think, could, easily, with players who are not good enough, players who want away, players who are loan signings. I had it maybe 2 or 3 months ago at 19 players. Can't shift them all. They'll have to hold on to some of them.
No, I think it all depends on who the manager is and what his ground rules are and where he thinks he can take the club forward. And he'll sit down and he'll have a list. And if you're telling me that this guy's already been identified but nobody knows, he'll be shifting through that list as we speak. And if he's as good enough a manager that's going to get appointed, he'll have it as soon as he walks through that door, which players he wants out and probably which players he wants to bring in. And I think that would be the biggest problem. I don't think the money is a problem. I think they'll realise that they do have to spend to bring some kind of quality in there. So I think everybody's just anticipating who the manager is, and what kind of players he's going to identify.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a major rebuilding job at Celtic, but at Rangers, Alison, I think from the perspective of looking the way that he's gradually improved that squad, Steven Gerrard, I think if you are looking at a team that's got to the last 16 of the Europa League, he's consistently just produced, some great results. I think he'll be looking for a standard of player to bring in that's something a wee bit special, I think. I think he'll now be looking for something that will get the fans excited, with Morelos money as well in the bag if he can get him out.
I think the Rangers could still do with a creative player. I think sometimes at times you look and they're very well drilled and very well coached. I think you could do with just someone with that wee bit of flair, a wee bit of imagination just in the middle. But as we know, where you're operating, that there is a ceiling to how high you can pay and what your budget is in terms of being able to bring in players. But you're right, I think the standard of the squad has gone up immeasurably in the 3 seasons that he's been there. I think he'll want to tweak it rather than do anything else. The problem we might have now is suitors coming to have a look at the players he's got, and if you're offered a fee for a player that's too good to turn down, then that can give you a bit of a headache too. But I think what it highlights now is just how important your recruitment side are of the club, your head of recruitment, in terms of identifying talent, identifying the players that you want, and also getting value for money, going out and finding markets where you can still bring in a player and they come in and do a job without bursting your budget, bringing people in that is still within the confines of the resources that you're working with, that can come in, get better and enhance the quality of your squad. And it's not an easy thing to do, which is why I think that it's probably arguably one of the most important roles that you can have at the club is getting that recruitment side right.
Yeah, well, they haven't managed to do that of late. Chris Bain says, I wonder if Peter's hanging about with Ali McCoist too much. Every comment made, he replies, absolutely. Okay, I'll not say absolutely then. I do play against McCoist at 5-a-sides on a regular basis, but if I'm using some of his catchphrases, Chris, I apologise. Scotland international football is back on the agenda coming up, and our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi has been out there at the Oriam gauging some of the opinions of Stephen Reid, the coach of Scotland, the assistant coach, and quite a few players have been speaking today as well.
Thanks, Peter, and good afternoon from Oriam here in Edinburgh, where Scotland have taken part in their first training session ahead of their opening World Cup qualifiers later on in the week. The first match itself is against Austria on Thursday. They will have a full Bundesliga contingent to choose from. Before the game, Scotland will take a united stand against racism. This is replacing taking the knee, which has happened all season. We saw some clubs do it at the weekend, such as Rangers, Celtic and Motherwell. Centre-half Declan Gallagher tells us why.
I just think we spoke to a few of the players. They wanted to change something. They obviously felt that the message of taking the knee wasn't working anymore. And obviously they just thought it was a pointless message. And as you can see, there's still incidents creeping up in the game, and it's not nice to see. So I think everybody wanted to make it look as a stand, as we're standing United. So all the boys were happy to do that. We
also spoke to assistant boss Stephen Reid. He said he was delighted to be back after 4 months away, but he also spoke about the racism issue. He said it was enough of the token gestures and time for firm action to be taken.
I think it's a case of action now. I think it's a case of, I think people are getting a little bit fed up with everything that's going on. The last, year to 18 months. I think now it's about firm action, incidents getting punished properly when found guilty. I think it's just a case of that's what the players want to see.
So Scotland will take a united stand against racism before the game against Austria. We'll be back here throughout the week as we continue to build up to the match as Scotland aim for the Qatar 2022 World Cup and also fight for places at this summer's European Championships.
Yeah, well done to Gabriel, just managing to get that report in for us. And it really echoes the sentiments that we shared at the start of the programme, Alison, because apart from people now questioning, show racism the red card, hold your card up, take a knee, all for the right reasons, all to try and educate people, just to show them this symbolism, to try and get them to think long and hard about their actions. But I think there has to be consequence, and you can see that from Scotland and Steven Reid putting a point across there. Until somebody realises there's a penalty for your actions, they're going to continue to do it.
Without question, I think what you have to do is see if there's evidence of racism, like the incident we saw last Thursday night. I think you have to come down on the player and on the club as hard as you possibly can, because that's the quickest way to get the message out that it won't be tolerated. Is to properly punish them. So if you come out and it's a 10-game ban immediately for any individual who gets caught in a situation like that, and the club is kicked out of the tournament if whoever they're up against gets a bye into the next round, and the individual is out for the next 10 games, that's a way to eradicate it. That's a way to do it. You speak about education. I'm not sure how much more we can do. You'd be hard pressed to find someone to say, to disagree with the message that racism isn't a good thing, that we're all anti-racism, that we're all for equality. Now is the time where you have to back it up with action. It's pointless to have people taking the knee and say we stand together, when quite clearly, if there is evidence in front of you, then you have to make a decision about how you deal with it, and you have to back it up with how you treat it.
Yeah, and the constant stories that we're getting, Roughie, suggest to me that sooner or later we have to get some kind of identification attributed to your social media account so that you're responsible for what happens in that account. I think that's the only way, because many a moron is getting the platform to voice their opinion, which I think at times is abhorrent, and they know they can get away with it.
Yeah, they've been getting away with it for years. So the longer it goes on, the more confident they're going to be that nothing's going to happen to them. So we do start to have to show these people that there is a punishment, and this is what the punishment is, and we have to make it as severe as possible. And so you would think, I know a lot of them are not very sensible, that you would like to think it'd get through the majority that this is what's going to happen if you continue to do this. And that's what we have to keep harping on about. But it's the powers that be that have to put it through.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, lots of great topics that we've discussed. Thank you to the many who have obviously shared their own views on it as well. Ruffy's going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, isn't it amazing? We've just announced a Scotland squad and there's been no call-offs. I wonder why.
Yeah, well, there you are.
Maybe a
Well.
European competition coming up. You know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, just out of curiosity, how many World Cup qualifying campaigns did you call off from once you realised there was possibly,
exactly.
never mind, Germany, where was it in 78? It was in Argentina. Where was it in 82? It was Spain. Where was it in 86? Mexico. You didn't call off for many of them, did you?
No, and I remember all the Anglo boys, the Man United boys, they used to run to the airport to get up from their game on a Saturday. They couldn't wait. They wouldn't miss it for a minute. So it just shows you what happens when you get to a European final. No call-offs.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's human nature. You want to be there. I mean, I don't think Tam and I are going to be calling off when the big meal's announced, Roughie, and whoever's paying for it. We'll be there. We'll be available. Anyway, thanks to Ali, thanks to Roughie, and thanks for the first half of the show from Tam McManus, who clearly up in East Kilbride is having an absolute mare with his Wi-Fi. Let's hope he sorts it all out for Wednesday. This week, we'll continue the build-up to the World Cup qualifiers with no call-offs, and hear more from the Scotland camp and our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi. Don't forget, there's still a competition going on at the moment. You could win yourself a Diego Maradona canvas. You could win an iPad and an Xbox, all as one prize. The PLZ hat-trick competition. All you have to do is follow the instructions, hit the send message, follow the instructions, register your name, and at the end of this month, we'll be picking out one lucky winner. Hit the follow button on our Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're delighted if you could join the football family. From Ali, Roughie, Tam, and myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.